look at him. Just look at him. He is not crying. He is past crying. He is standing at the edge of a pit, in the middle of a field, in the middle of Canaan, and the only sound left in this place is the wind, and bells, caravan bells, getting smaller. His brother is in that caravan, alive, bound, sold. 20 pieces of silver. That is what it cost. 20 pieces of silver, and the silence of 10 brothers who decided on an ordinary afternoon that they had finally had enough. He is one of those 10 brothers, and that is where this story begins. His name is Reuben, firstborn son of Jacob, eldest of 12. He had a plan today, a simple one. Come back to this pit, pull Joseph out, return him to their father, fix something, maybe begin to fix himself in the process. But he came back too late, and now he is standing here, staring into an empty hole in the ground, asking himself the only question that matters right now. How did it come to this? To answer that, we have to go back, not to this morning, all the way back to the house that made him. Picture a household in Canaan, not a small one. Jacob, the patriarch, had built something real here. Flocks, land, wealth. 12 sons between 4 women. From the outside, it looked like everything a man could want. But here is what you need to understand about Jacob's house. It was a house divided. Not by walls, by something harder to fix than walls. By love that was not shared equally. Jacob had 4 women who had given him sons, but there was only one woman Jacob had ever truly loved. And everyone in that camp, every son, every servant, every person who had spent more than a week inside those walls knew exactly who that woman was. Her name was Rachel. And the sons Rachel gave Jacob got something the other sons didn't get. They got their father's whole heart. Now into this house, Reuben was born first. In that world, being firstborn meant everything. Not just a title, a destiny. The firstborn got the double portion of the inheritance. The firstborn stood at their father's right hand. The firstborn was, in every sense that mattered, the crown prince. And when Reuben arrived, Jacob's very first son, Jacob looked at this boy the way a man looks at something he cannot believe he has been given, with pride, with wonder, with a love so large it had no clean name. Reuben grew up inside that love. For a while, it was enough. But then Rachel's sons arrived, and something in the house shifted. Not suddenly, not with an announcement, just quietly, the direction of Jacob's attention began to move, and Reuben, standing there in his place as the eldest, felt it. The way you feel a door closing in a room you're still standing in. Slowly, without anyone meaning to close it. That feeling, that is where this story really starts. There was a man named Hobab. He visited Jacob's camp a few times a year, and whenever he arrived, the children ran to meet him at the road. That tells you something about a person. He was old, but not the kind of old that makes a man smaller, the kind that makes him sharper. He had known Jacob for decades, through the good years and the ones that nearly broke him. He was one of those rare friends who had earned the right to tell Jacob the truth, and Jacob trusted him enough to hear it. He arrived one evening as the sun was going down. And before he walked into the camp, he stopped. He always did this. Watched first, read the temperature of a place before stepping into it. His eyes moved across the camp, the children running, the fires starting, the livestock settling. And then, across the camp, the older brothers gathered at their fire, loud, restless, the energy of young men who had worked hard all day and still had something left over with nowhere to go. At the head of the group was Reuben, directing the others, capable, in control. But Hobab watched him for a moment longer than he watched the others, because something in Reuben's posture, something in the way he was holding himself, didn't match the confidence of the eldest son. It matched something else, something heavier. Hobab said nothing. He picked up his staff and walked into the camp, but he filed what he saw away, the way a wise man files away something he suspects he will need later. Now here is something Jacob didn't know. Every evening, after the meal, after the younger children were in bed, after Jacob had retired to his tent, the older brothers gathered at their own fire, away from their father, away from the managed version of themselves they kept on display during the day. And at that fire, they said the things they couldn't say in front of Jacob. Picture it. 10 brothers, 1 fire, a Canaan night pressing in from all sides. Simeon is talking. Now, Simeon was the kind of man who didn't really talk, he declared. There's a difference. Talking means you were open to being wrong. Simeon was never open to being wrong. Tonight, he's going through the list. The grazing rotation that doesn't feel fair, the work the older brothers do, the way certain people in this household receive more than they have earned. He still hasn't said Joseph's name. He doesn't need to. The name is in the room without being spoken. Everyone feels it. Levi is nodding. Levi always nods when Simeon speaks. Dan is laughing, not because anything is funny, but because Simeon keeps saying the sharp thing nobody else will say, and that kind of relief comes out as laughter, even when it shouldn't. Judah is quiet, sitting slightly apart, listening carefully, not agreeing out loud, not disagreeing either. Judah never spends words before he knows what he's buying with them. And then, Zebulun. Zebulun is at the far edge of the fire, half in shadow, watching the flame. The brother who feels everything and shows nothing. And then there's Reuben, sitting at the head of the group, because he always sits at the head, because he is the eldest. That is his place. But tonight, listening to Simeon build this thing sentence by sentence, Reuben knows he should say something. Not a small thing, not a gentle redirect. Something real, something that names what is actually happening in this family and points it toward a different direction. He opens his mouth, Simeon makes his next point sharper, the brothers lean in like a fire finding fresh air, and Reuben says something careful, something that doesn't quite land. Simeon doesn't even pause, and Reuben sits back. If you have ever been in a room and known exactly what needed to be said and felt it leave your mouth at half the strength it needed, then you already understand Reuben better than you think. Later that night, after the brothers' fire had died down and the camp had gone quiet, Hobab sat with Jacob, just the two of them, the way they had sat together many times across many years. They started with easy things, the flock, the land, a neighboring clan. Old friends start with the easy things. But Hobab had been carrying something since he arrived at the edge of the camp that evening, and eventually he set down his cup.
Jacob, talk to me about Reuben. What about him? How is he really? He is strong, he works hard, he will grow into the role. I watched him tonight, with his brothers, and he is carrying something that a title and an inheritance cannot fix. Jacob Cha, you know better than any man I have ever met that a birthright given is not the same as a character built. Everything that made you, it really made you, came from what it cost you. The years, the wrestling, the nights you didn't know how the morning would find you.
Your son has the position, he has the name, but inside those brothers' circle tonight, he opened his mouth to lead, and nobody followed.
He will be fine.
Hobab didn't push further. He knew Jacob, knew that some truths need to be introduced slowly, like medicine and food, a little at a time until the person is strong enough to take it directly. He looked out across the camp one more time. The brothers' fire, just embers now. He thought about what he had seen in that circle, about Simeon's voice, about Reuben's face when his words didn't land, about a firstborn son who had every right in the world and was quietly losing the one thing rights cannot give you, the room. He went to bed, but he didn't sleep easily. He had seen this kind of thing before, in other households, in other families, where love moved in one direction too long, and the one standing outside of its warmth eventually stopped waiting to be let in and started doing something else with the cold. He hoped he was wrong. He was not wrong. So now you know the house. Now you understand the world that made the man standing here. This is not a story about a monster. This is not even a story about a bad man. This is a story about a firstborn son who grew up watching love move in a direction that never quite reached him, who tried to lead a circle that kept turning away from him, who had good intentions and not quite enough of whatever it takes to follow them all the way through. Sound familiar? Maybe it does. Maybe you are not watching this story from the outside. Maybe you are watching it from the inside. Here's what I need you to hold on to before we go further. Reuben is not finished. Yes, the pit is empty. Yes, the caravan is gone. Yes, what happened in this field today cannot be undone. But here's what I know about God. He has never once looked at an empty pit and called it the end of the story. Next time, we go back inside that house, to the wound that started long before Joseph was born, to the moment Rachel arrived and love in Jacob's household learned to have a favorite. Crowns in the Dust, the Reuben series, episode 2, coming soon.